You can measure the size of an elephant. You can clock the speed of a cheetah, but you can't quantify the heart of a kings, queens, and in-betweens. Welcome to Dr. Boxing Talk. Stream starts now.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
If I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know one lying.
Yo, what it do? Good, great, grand morning to y'all, man. Wonderful Tuesday morning, June 24th. We are here, man. You know what I'm saying? Brethren and sister and boys and girls, ladies and lads, hermanos, mi hermanas, prince and princesses, kings and queens, and everything in between. Y'all know what time it is. A doctor's in the house. Let's get right to it, man. Without further ado, let's get right to it. Excited to be here, man. Okay, everything sound good. Check the sound and all that good stuff at bonbons, man. What's going down, man? What's going down this morning, man? We have a couple things to talk about. You know, I was going to drop a video yesterday. Well, I did drop a video last night in regards to some of the things that was announced by Turki Alalshikh, you know, because he announced some things, man, in his little round living room meeting, but round living room talk. It wasn't a round table talk, but it was a round living room talk with three other gentlemen. I don't remember, you know, it's Mike Coppinger, Rick Reno, and I don't remember the other guy's name. I don't think he's really big at ish something. I don't remember his name, but yeah. So yeah, man, we'll see how it goes between them. But before we get started and we talk about that conversation that they had, which was a little cringy, you know, let's go start off with our prayer, man. So let's go ahead and do that and bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for waking us up on this Tuesday morning. Thank you for blessing us. Thank you for giving us a life, and thank you for those that we have in our life that we can call loved ones and friends, and that we can depend on when things get a little tough. And thank you for allowing us to be that person that others can depend on when things get a little rough for them, Lord. So we want to thank you for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us, and the times that we have received blessings through others. Have you sent others in our lives as vessels of blessings, you know, to work on your behalf, to for the betterment of our lives and our experiences, Lord. And thank you for also being that for others and allowing us to be that for others as well, because, you know, being a gift and providing a gift to others is always more fulfilling and more pleasing than receiving a gift. So we thank you for giving us strength, and we thank you for giving us life, and we thank you for allowing us to be a blessing in others' lives and allowing others to be a blessing in ours as well. In Jesus' name, amen, amen, amen. So don't forget to smack that like button, but let's get right to it. We got my brother Oscar in the building, mi hermano. Yes, Erski. What's good, Oscar? What's good, bro? Mi hermano Carnal. Yes, sir. But yeah, man. So they had the round table, like I said, the round table talk, which was like a round living room talk, between Turki Alalshikh, Matt Coppinger, Rick Reno, and another gentleman, man, whose name I can't recall right now, Ish something. But they were talking about a lot of things, man, plethora of things, from the Riyadh season cards to expectations to people being on the card to next moves on the card. On the Canelo card, the card I'm talking about, they talked about Canelo Crawford undercard. They talked about people potentially being on Riyadh season, people that are on Riyadh season, their potential moves afterwards, you know, even Canelo's potential moves. And that's where I want to start off with. You know, I want to start off with Canelo, man. No, let's start off with Gervonta Davis. We're gonna get right into the meat and potatoes, man. So of course Gervonta, amen, nice with it. So Gervonta Davis came up, you know, per usual. He's one of the biggest names in boxing, you know, Cinnamon being the face of boxing, who Turki Alalshikh already works with, you know, and then Gervonta Davis. No, I would say Canelo being the face of boxing, who Turki Alalshikh already works with. Anthony Joshua being probably the next biggest star, you know, and Turki Alalshikh already works with them, and then Gervonta Davis would be the third biggest star. Or, if you want to say him and Anthony Joshua 2 and 3, whatever, but they're both behind Canelo, right? And so Gervonta Davis, the top 3 biggest stars in boxing, he's the last one that has yet to work with Turki Alalshikh, and Turki has announced that, you know, a deal may be imminent to get Gervonta Davis on the Riyadh season card. And I think that's great, you know, because, you know, I have to give credit where credit is due. Big Turk does do big fights, and if Gervonta's on the Riyadh season card, then you could hope that a unification will hopefully happen, and if that unification happens, hopefully it'll come by way of Shakur Stevenson. But that's not the only big fight for Gervonta. I tell people that all the time, you know. It's not the biggest fight. Well, it might be the biggest fight for him, excuse me, but it's not the only big fight there for him. So there's some other people that could be a big fight for Tank too, as well, like Teofimo Lopez, you know, or even Naoya Inoue, because Gervonta, as you can see with Canelo and Crawford, Turki doesn't care about weight classes like that. He's not a traditional boxing fan, and I'm not trying to be condescending when I say this, but he's not even really a purist like that. You know, he's more of a casual boxing fan that enjoys the sport, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I'm saying? But the reason why I say casual, because look at the matchups that he makes. You know, some of the matchups that he makes are dope because it's big names, but a lot of times stylistically or matchmaking wise is not good. They're not really the best. And like I said, even with the weight classes and stuff, he doesn't really care about that. Like, he wanted Ja Pataya to fight. Who was it at heavyweight? I can't remember who it was. He wanted Ja Pataya to fight. Was it AJ or somebody like that? You know, he flirted with that, and then he also flirted with, of course, some other. I think he wanted Ja Pataya to fight Canelo. So, you know, so he doesn't really care about. He cares more about the matchups and the intrigue and the high profile fighters than he does about what's going to work. I guess logically, you know what I'm saying? What makes, I should say traditionally, as far as making fights in the same division. So, you know, we could even get Gervonta Davis versus Naoya Inoue, like I was saying. So, because he doesn't really care about the jumps of weight classes. So, I think that either way, if Gervonta Davis is on Riyadh season, it'll be great. And I think that'll be intriguing for the sport, you know, have another star over there. We know that the fights will be compelling, even if it's not competitive, you know. But I will say this as well, you know, in addition to that, he did mention one caveat, one condition, and this is what Gervonta Davis said. Gervonta said that he would work with Turk if Al Heyman gives his blessing, and I think that's dope, man. And even Turki Alalshikh, he acknowledged it as being dope. He basically said that, man, I love that. He said that, you know, I think that loyalty in this life is better than anything, almost anything. So I love the fact that Tank said that, and I love the fact even more that Turki Alalshikh respects it. And I think that a lot of people don't realize, let's face it, man, a lot of people are snakes, man, you know, and a lot of people don't stand for anything in this life, you know, unfortunately, especially on the internet. So when he says that, I know a lot of people will say, oh, he's just trying to duck or whatever, but no, like, loyalty means stuff. So when guys that are friends say they don't want to fight, I don't like it any more than other people, but I understand it, because there is such thing as loyalty, and there should be, you know what I'm saying? It should be demonstrated more often. However, Turkey did say this, and this is something that I've said a lot of times. I've always said this. For some reason, people, you know, it's so funny when Bob Arum and Top Rank works with Turki Alalshikh, we acknowledge that as a partnership. When Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy, works with Turki Alalshikh, we acknowledge that as a partnership. When Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, we acknowledge it as a partnership. Frank Warren and Queensberry acknowledge it as a partnership. Ben Shalom and Boxer acknowledge it as a partnership when they work with Riyadh Season and Turki Alalshikh. But for some reason, people think that PBC doesn't work with Turki Alalshikh. And that's just not true. And Turki said it himself. He said almost all of my cards have like 2 or 3 PBC fighters on there. But for some reason, people are under this notion, erroneous notion, by the way, that Turkey doesn't do business with PBC. Carlos Adames fought Hamza Shiraz. He's a PBC fighter. Isa Cruz fought on there as well. He's a PBC fighter. So, but it's just people are so infatuated with knocking down certain entities that they will not only skew the truth, they will actually negate the truth. You know what I'm saying? Ignore the truth and just try to. It's crazy, brother. Manipulation is crazy. But so shout out to Turkey saying that, and then to me, that's just demonstrating that not only is he respect Gervonta Davis' position, but he's saying, hey man, you know, this is something that can be easily overcome because I work with Al Heyman already. But for some reason, if Al Heyman doesn't want to let Gervonta Davis work with Riyadh, he's going to respect that. That's what he's saying. And case in point, he's did that before too. Is like what did he just say with Richardson Hitches? You know, according to Eddie Hearn, he said, hey man, I won't work with Richardson Hitches unless he's with Eddie Hearn and unless he's with Matchroom. So that while I don't think that was an appropriate response to Richardson Hitches, because if you're a free agent, you're a free agent. I think that, you know, promoters drop fighters all the time, and I don't see any uproar about that. But suddenly Richardson Hitches wants to claim that he's a proclaim that he's a free agent. All of a sudden it's a problem. So I don't agree with that. But at the same time, at least it's some consistency. He's saying, hey man, Richardson Hitches, I expect you to show some loyalty to Eddie Hearn, and if you don't, then I'm not going to work with you. So I love when people practice what they preach, and I love consistency, and that's what Turki Alalshikh is doing. Whether I agree with it or not, it's still some type of consistency, because he's saying, hey man, you know, I respect the loyalty aspect. So if Tank wants to be loyal to Al Heyman, that's cool. I expect Richard Hitches to be loyal to Eddie Hearn, which I think is not the same thing, you know, because if your contract is up, then you are a free agent. So there's nothing wrong with you promoting yourself and advertising yourself, because if Richard Hitches loses, Eddie Hearn will drop him like hot potatoes, you know what I'm saying? And nobody will say nothing. So but still the fact still remains that he figures for whatever reason he thinks that's loyalty, you know what I'm saying? So it just shows that he means that, and I love that, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's cool. But what I will say this though, you know, Turki Alalshikh also said that if Gervonta comes on Riyadh season, it has to be a big fight, and that's cool, which is what I just said before. A big fight for Turk is not synonymous with a competitive fight. He did say no easy fights, but case in point, right? I don't know what Turkey, like I said, this is why I say he's more of like a casual, right? Because he'll say that he doesn't want any easy fights, but then he'll make an easy fight. For example, right after he said that he wants a Tank on there and that there'll be no easy fights, he says what he wants next for Canelo. If you watch the interview, and assuming that Canelo beats Terrence Crawford, he said that he wants Canelo versus Hamza Shiraz if Hamza Shiraz beats Berlanga, or he wants him against Chris Eubank Jr. Huh? What? You just said you don't want any easy fights. What do you think that is for Cinnamon? You think those are difficult fights? not only if Canelo fights Hamza Shiraz next, assuming Hamza Shiraz beats Berlanga and assuming Canelo beats Bud, if Canelo fights Chris Eubank or Hamza Shiraz next, not only will those be easy fights for him, those might be the easiest fights of his career. However, I'm not mad at it. If that's what Turkey wants, you know what I'm saying? If that's what the people are cool with, just don't complain, you know, because that's what people say. You know, people like to go off of convenient stereotypes and stigmas, right? So for one fighter, they would be mad, but then another fighter, they'll be excited, you know? So one fighter, they'll be like, okay, bet, you know, he's on Riyadh season, so it's going to be difficult fights. But then if you look at the history of the fights on Riyadh season, all of them aren't difficult. Now, of course, he brings us some banger competitive fights like Usyk and Fury and Bivol and Beterbiev. But there's some fights on there that are pretty easy, you know. And I think that Canelo's next fights, if that's true, being Chris Eubank Jr. and Hamza Shiraz, those fights are trash, bro. I ain't gonna lie, those fights are garbage.
Know your fucking place, trash.
Yeah, those fights are terrible, man. I'm not gonna lie, but hey, I'll watch it because Cinnamon's one of my favorite fighters. I just like boxing, so I'll watch it. And then I will say this too, in Hamza Shiraz's defense, which I don't know why I'll come to Hamza Shiraz's defense. Hamza Shiraz, if he beats Berlanga, I don't think that's the logical next step. I think that he should fight somebody else to prove his place at 168. But Edgar Berlanga would be a common opponent with Canelo, so if you want to go off of that, then I understand that that's not too outside of the realm of possibility, because they'll both have Edgar Berlanga as a common opponent, and then in addition to that, Canelo, if Hamza Shiraz, let's say Hamza Shiraz mollywops Edgar Berlanga and destroys him, then that'll give us a reason to be like, okay, bet the Canelo fight is intriguing. But I don't imagine that happening. And even if he does destroy Edgar Berlanga, I don't see it happening I see him outboxing him. I don't see him like stopping him like devastating in his devastating fashion. However, if he does punch on him and beat him up and outpoint him, and he does stop him, let's say by accumulation of punches, then that would make the Canelo fight more intriguing. But I would still rather see like Hamza Shiraz versus, in the scenario that he beats Edgar Berlanga, I'd rather see him versus not Jaime Munguia, because Jaime Munguia is dirty. You know what I'm saying? PED popper. You know how that goes, man. We do not allow no cheaters.
We do not let people who are on the juice discuss real athletes. That's all.
But like Hamza Shiraz versus Christian and Billy, Hamza Shiraz versus Diego Pacheco, I think that's a great fight. Hamza Shiraz and Diego Pacheco. Hamza Shiraz versus Ozzy Iglesias. To me, those are more intriguing fights. Hell, Hamza Shiraz versus Caleb Plant, even though Caleb Plant just lost to Resendez. Hamza Shiraz versus Jamal Charlo. Those are all better fights to me that are more competitive. If Hamza Shiraz goes in there with Cinnamon is gonna destroy Hamza Shiraz. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna say destroyed like he's gonna beat him in 5 rounds, because Canelo has been complacent lately and he allows people to survive. But it's not gonna be, and it's gonna be a walk in the park essentially. You know what I'm saying? And then after that, who's the other guy? Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. just got hurt by Conor Benn multiple times in their fight. I think Chris Eubank Jr. not easily, but he clearly won that fight. It was a tough fight. It was an entertaining fight, but it was a clear winner for Chris Eubank Jr. But what about that fight makes us think that he could hang with Cinnamon? You see what I'm saying? I know Canelo said he wants to fight in England. He did say that. He made that very clear. So that is showing you that, Turk and Canelo have some type of partnership to where Turk probably wants to bring that into fruition, assuming Canelo beats Terrence Crawford and he fights Chris Eubank Jr. next. To me, that I'd rather him fight Hamza Shiraz, and that's crazy. Me rather Hamza Shiraz, that's saying a whole lot. Why don't we have Chris Eubank Jr. fight Hamza Shiraz? Why are we talking about Canelo? You know what I'm saying? Why don't we have Chris Eubank Jr. fight Janibek Alimkanuli or Carlos Adames or somebody else at 160, or if Chris Eubank Jr. wants to move up to 168, fight one of the aforementioned guys that I named, like Ozzy Iglesias, Diego Pacheco, Christian and Billy. To me, those are more competitive fights. But as far as known and renown and profile goes, and of course Chris Eubank Jr., he especially after that win over Conor Benn, he has England on his back, and as far as being a popular fighter, and then he won with his family name, with Chris Eubank Sr., his father, and he picked up the mantle from his dad, and he beat the Benn family. So of course that's a big fight, but it's not a competitive fight at all. So if those are the 2 fights that we could look forward to for Cinnamon next, I think those are garbage, and there's nothing to look forward to. Canelo he might as well go ahead and fight Jake Paul. He might as well go ahead and fight Jake Paul, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'd much rather Canelo fight Jake Paul than Hamza Shiraz and Chris Eubank Jr. I know that sounds disrespectful. No disrespect to Chris Eubank Jr. or Hamza Shiraz, but what I'm saying is that none of those fights are competitive between Canelo and Hamza Shiraz, or Canelo and Eubank Jr., or Canelo and Jake Paul. But at least Jake Paul, I will get the satisfaction of finally seeing him in there with a real active boxer that's gonna put him to sleep. You know what I'm saying? So at least I get some, selfishly, at least I get some recompense for what he did to Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? So that'll be good for me. Even if it means that Jake Paul will get a lot of money, hey, he deserves it, because he has been putting on for boxing. But as far as a promoter, he's been putting on for boxing. But as far as him being a competitor, he hasn't really been fighting anybody. So he deserves his money. But I feel like I deserve to see him get smoked real quick by a real fighter. You know what I'm saying? That's just my personal opinion on that. So yeah, I'd rather Canelo fight Jake Paul than gosh dang Hamza Shiraz and Chris Eubank Jr. But this is all slated for February. But my point is this, though. My point, to double back, is that when Turkey says that it's going to be big fights for Gervonta, sometimes what he considers big fights aren't really competitive fights. So don't confuse those two words. So, you know, a big fight or not an easy fight is not really too big of a, it's not too difficult of a fight. You know what I'm saying? Because Canelo, if he fights Shiraz or Eubank, those are not competitive fights. So if Gervonta Tank Davis hops on Riyadh, don't be surprised if he fights like Naoya Inoue, which would not be a competitive fight. Tank will mollywop Naoya Inoue, just regardless of what you think. And or let's say somebody else. I don't know. Maybe don't be surprised if it could be Tank versus Junto Nakatani or something like that, or Tank versus I don't know. Teofimo Lopez or Keyshawn Davis or something like that. A lot of people think that it's automatically going to be Tank versus Shakur Stevenson. And I'm telling you that that's not a given, because when Canelo signed with Riyadh, it has not been David Benavidez, right? David Benavidez hasn't even been discussed. So what I'm assuming now, I'm just assuming, is that maybe, you know, Canelo being the face of boxing and the businessman he is, and with Tank Davis being a big star, I'm assuming that they probably put in their contracts who they don't want to fight. And Turki Alalshikh's probably going to abide by that, because he hasn't even mentioned Canelo versus Benavidez, has he? No, but he's mentioned Canelo versus Terrence Bud Crawford, Hamza Shiraz, and Chris Eubank Jr. So don't be surprised if Tank goes to Riyadh season and he still does not fight Shakur Stevenson. I'm just letting y'all know that right now. You know what I'm saying? Just connecting the dots. Yes, sir. We got my guy 2-4 in the building. What's good, brother? Yes, sir. Big member in the building. We got who else we got? We got JRN in the building. What's good, brethren? We got DN7. What's good, bro? He got my guy Patrick Bamundele. Shout out to my guy Patrick Bamundele, man. That's my guy right there, man. Shout out to my guy Patrick, man, in the building. Big member in the building. DN7, what's good, man? So he said I would even prefer Jamal over Eubank or Shoe. Yeah, facts. I would rather see him fight Jamal Charlo over Chris Eubank or Hamza Shiraz. You see what I'm saying, DN7? So a lot of times, sometimes we don't, and I'm guilty of this too. We're all human, you know, but sometimes we don't look at what's actually going on in reality. Sometimes, you know, we associate Riyadh season with big competitive fights, and that's good, you know, but sometimes we overlook things that are right in our face. And Canelo, no disrespect, but Canelo fought William Skull. For me, as a boxing purist and a pugilist enthusiast, that's a big fight because it's undisputed. I don't get caught up in the sauce of the casuals. You know, they make it seem like, oh, who is William Skull? Skull is trash. I don't even know who that is. He's a champion. If you don't know an undefeated champion, then that means that you don't know boxing as much as you claim that you do. I'm not saying that he's the most known guy. He has the most renowned or biggest profile, but you should at least be familiar with a champion in the same division as a face of boxing, especially if he's undefeated. So that's what I'm saying. So I knew who William Skull was, you know, and I thought the fight was big because it's for undisputed. That's the biggest accolade that could be achieved in boxing, is undisputed. So when Canelo fought William Skull, that was for a chance to reclaim undisputed. Now he's 2-time undisputed, albeit in the same division. So it's not as good as Naoya Inoue or Terrence Bud Crawford's or Alexander Usyk's, because it's in 2 different divisions. But he did hit a milestone and a major accomplishment by getting undisputed twice in the same division. So, but my point is that that's not really a big fight. It's a meaningful fight, but it's not a big fight, you know, as far as competitiveness goes. You know, a lot of people didn't know him. So that was Canelo's first fight on Riyadh season. His next fight is going to be Terrence Bud Crawford. And I think that's a big fight once again because of who Terrence Crawford is, you know, a 2-time undisputed in 2 different divisions and undefeated while doing it, you know, going against Canelo. But it's not necessarily a fair matchup, right? Because Terrence Bud Crawford is coming up two divisions, you know, from 154 to 168. And a lot of people like myself consider him a 147-pound fighter still. So you could even argue that it's 3 divisions. So it's not really a competitive fight if it goes down how I think it's going to go down. And just by the laws of physics and nature, you know, with there being weight classes for a reason, there's a pretty strong and solid argument to say that this is not even a big competitive fight either. So that's Canelo has fought William Skull. A lot of people didn't know who he was. Terrence Crawford, he's a smaller guy. His next fight is Hamza Shiraz or Chris Eubank Jr. So you tell me which one of those fights, those are his slated fights, right? Which would be in February. Which one of those fights is a competitive fight? So what I'm saying is, yeah, we associate Riyadh season with competitive fights like Beterbiev and Bivol, like Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. But there's also fights that aren't really that big or competitive either, like Job Ataya versus Jack One Smack Massey. No one knew who that was. Or like Joseph Parker. Granted, this is circumstantial, but even Joseph Parker versus Martin Bacoli, that was a lie. That wasn't a tough competitive fight. Martin Bacoli had 1 day notice. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes things will happen like that. And then there's another guy that's considered to be on the undercard, which we're about to get into right now. Canelo Canelo and Crawford, and Bakram Murtazaliev, another PBC affiliated fighter, not a PBC fighter exactly, but a PBC affiliated fighter. They're talking about him fighting Josh Kelly. What? No disrespect to Josh Kelly, but who wanted that? Who wanted Josh Kelly? Like, what are we talking about, bro? But anyway, shout out to my guy Al Booger in the building, man. What's good, brethren? Big member in the building. He said, I just hope since they watch Shiraz to fight, if Berlanga wins, they keep the same energy. Nah. Don't say that, Oscar. Please don't say that. I do not want to see Berlanga and Canelo again. And that's what Berlanga wants. He wants a rematch. No, don't say that, bro. Don't say that, Oscar, please. But I do agree with you. If Berlanga does beat Shiraz, we have to say that Berlanga is much better than he's getting credit for. I do agree. He should be boosted up in the totem pole. But I do not want to see Berlanga versus Canelo again. Crunch time. What's good, brethren? Salutations. He said, why are they doing my man David Benavidez like that, bro? He had been looking for all the smoke and they keep blocking him just because he's loyal to PBC. I don't think they're blocking them, Patrick. That's the thing. That's like I said. I'm shout out to you though. I love that angle and I love that perspective as far as them blocking him. I'm so glad you didn't say that PBC's not allowing David Benavidez to go over to Riyadh, because PBC fighters have been on Riyadh. So shout out to you, Big Sulu. That's why I rock with you. But David Benavidez, I don't think necessarily that Turkey is blocking him. Well, okay. For what Turkey is offering him, you could consider it blocking him, but I don't think it was blocking. Remember that Turkey wanted David Benavidez to be the fight in Alcatraz, just like he wanted Teofimo and Richard Sahitches to be in Alcatraz. Not only did Richard Sahitches decline it, right? That's why he fought George Kambosos in New York. Part of the reason, well, first of all, I don't think Teofimo would have fought him anyway, but that's the reason why he didn't fight at Alcatraz, because, you know, he said he wanted his first title defense to be in New York, in his hometown. That's what Richard Sahitches said. Well, David Benavidez also shared a similar sentiment. He said, hey, man, I don't want to fight at Alcatraz. He said, I think that's cool. The locations are cool. But he said, I want to fight in a location where my fans can show up. So it's not necessarily that David Benavidez is being blocked. However, I will agree with you that it doesn't seem like Turkey is really mapping out any big fights for David Benavidez, like a Canelo Alvarez or like a I don't know who else is a big fight right now for Benavidez. Maybe like I don't know, Callum Smith. I mean, they're in negotiations right now, so I wouldn't be shocked if that's on the Riyadh season card. I did hear that it'll be in England or the U.S., primarily in the U.S. Not primarily, excuse me, most likely in the U.S. But I don't think that they're not interested in having David Benavidez on. I think David Benavidez doesn't want to subscribe to the crazy locations or the weird scenarios like the Times Square event or like Alcatraz, you know, that's proposed and stuff like that. I very much believe that Dave Benavidez will be on a Riyadh season card soon or in the near future. And I think it will be against Beterbiev or Bivol. You know, the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol trilogy, I think, will fight Benavidez. I just think that Benavidez right now is being impatient. You know, I think he wants, like no disrespect, I like Dave Benavidez too. You know, that's my guy, man. I rock with him. Like I said, you know, Cinnamon's my guy, but I don't feel compelled to pick between the two. I like them both. I think Cinnamon beats David Benavidez, but I think David Benavidez is the epitome. Him, Errol Spence, guys like that will fight anybody. They talk that talk and they walk that walk. So to me, those are I don't know how anybody doesn't like David Benavidez. Like if you're a big Canelo fan, and I get it because you see him as a threat or whatever, but I'm a big Canelo fan, but I like boxing more. So I don't see how you cannot like a guy like Dave Benavidez. Even Tim Tszyu, I can see how you don't like him now because he's been getting mollywopped. But, you know, Tim Tszyu's a guy that seems like he'll fight anybody. So I love those guys. Pause. We're going to pause that. But, yeah, I like those gentlemen that demonstrate the ability and the desire to want to fight anybody.
No, did he?
And that ambition, you know what I'm saying? I think David Benavidez has that. However, like I said, I think David Benavidez's flaw is that he feels somewhat entitled. Like for some reason he thinks that he could just get any fight that he wants. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but there's an order to things. We knew Beterbiev and Bivol was going to be a trilogy. Why would you think that you jumping to light heavyweight would disrupt that? You know what I'm saying? So I think you need to sit his goofy behind down and just be patient and wait for the fights to happen as they will. You know what I'm saying? And they will. You know, I don't think Beterbiev or Bivol is going to duck him. So, you know, I think that fight would be on Riyadh season card. He said, oh, yeah, you're right about that fan base. Yeah, exactly, Patrick. Yeah, forgot about that. Yeah, now you good. Shout out to my guy. He said, pause, game improving. Hey, you see me, JRN? Hey, man, I hope you're good, bro. I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you, bro. Take them dad in the building, man. Yes, sir. Hope everyone's doing good. You thunder up. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out to the Thunder, man. Shout out to the Thunder. He said the worst part is Bakram is probably the best fighter in the division. So you're telling me the chat, you telling me he can't fight a Boachuk, a Badgerov, a Lupi. Right. And that's the crazy part, DN7. The crazy part is that with Bakram, Erickson Lubin, he's supposed to be fighting Lubin because Lubin won the IBF title eliminator when he beat the undefeated Arjura Holmes. So, but once again, like I told y'all before, excuse me, I had to sneeze. Like I told y'all before, it's not always just because you fight a title eliminator doesn't mean that you're gonna get a title shot next, which is what I was saying with the IBF and Raymond Murataya. Remember I said that? Oh yeah, Andy Cruz fought a title eliminator for the IBF against Bashiro, his last fight. But don't assume that Raymond Murataya is gonna have. I mean, Andy Cruz is gonna get his next fight will be a title shot against Raymond Murataya. The champion could still get a fight in the interim, which is what Murataya might get, and which is what Bakram Murtazaliev is getting, according to reports of Josh Kelly. But let's transition now, man. So that's a perfect transition to the Canelo and Bud proposed undercard, which is something that Turki Alalshikh did this past interview that he had, right? And he's saying that he not only wants Bakram Murtazaliev versus Josh Kelly on the Canelo undercard, Canelo Crawford undercard, he also wants Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus Jarrell Big Baby Anderson, so the battle of the big babies. And then he also wants Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes for the vacant WBO title at 135 that Keyshawn vacated, right, because he was unprofessional and came in extremely heavy, right, 4 pounds overweight. I'm not gonna lie, I'm only excited for one of those fights, but I think that's a fire undercard. I'm not gonna lie. Don't forget to smack that like button, man. If you're in here and you did not smack the like button, that's crazy. Smack the like button, bro. Y'all act like it's not free. You know what I'm saying? Like it hurts your soul to smack the like button, bro. It's crazy, man. But don't forget to smack that like button for your boy. But the thing is, the reason why I like the card, but I understand if somebody's not intrigued, is because these are fights that are known people, but it's not really notable fights. Like I said, but Josh Kelly, why is he fighting Bakram Murtazaliev? Like, I don't really understand that at all. Josh Kelly, if I'm not mistaken, I think his last fight was it Ishmael Davis? I know he might have fought since Ishmael Davis. Who Josh Kelly last fight? I feel like he fought since Ishmael Davis. I feel like he had a fight since he beat Ishmael Davis. Yeah, he fought Flavius Biu, or how you pronounce the guy's name, and he beat him in 1 round, whatever. So yeah, and then before that was Ishmael Davis at 160. I don't know. I feel like Josh Kelly just came out of nowhere for Bakram. Like, why Josh Kelly at 154 is beyond me. Like I said, it's not a bad fight because stylistically, Josh Kelly is a pretty slick fighter. It's not a bad fight, but it's just like a why fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was hoping that Bakram Murtazaliev coming back would fight like a, I don't know, like a Erickson the Hammer Lubin, like a Jesus Ramos, I would say a unification, but we know unification is not possible because the WBA champion is Terrence Crawford. He's fighting Cinnamon. And then the WBO champion and the the WBO and the WBC champion, Sebastian Fedora. Sorry, no, the WBO championship is vacant, right? And so the WBC champion is Sebastian Fedora. He's fighting Tim Tszyu. Bakram already beat Tim Tszyu. So there's not really a unification available because of WBO title is vacant. And Xander Zayas is fighting Jorge Garcia Perez for that, right? So I get not having a unification. It's justified. But still, there's other guys that he could fight that are bigger and better than Josh Kelly, or more intriguing than Josh Kelly. I'm not going to say better. I'm not going to disrespect Josh Kelly. Like I said, I think he's a good fighter and a slick fighter. And stylistically, the style contrast is great, you know? Bakram being a guy that's going to hunt you down and a puncher, boxer type guy. And Josh Kelly being a slicker fighter, you know what I'm saying? So stylistically, it's a good contrast. But it's just like, nah, man, I'd rather see Bakram versus Erickson the Hammer Lubin. I'd rather see Bakram Murtazaliev versus Jesus Ramos. I'd rather see Bakram versus Serhii Boachuk. I'd rather see Bakram versus Israel Madrimov, even though Madrimov is coming off a loss against Virgil Ortiz. He only has 2 losses. That's to Virgil Ortiz and Terrence Bud Crawford. I'd rather see that. Hell, I'd rather see Bakram versus Jerron Boots Ennis, who just recently went to 154. There's so many other guys that I would put. Bro, I put Josh Kelly, he would probably be like 7th or 8th on my list. So I just thought that came out of nowhere. But still, it's still a decent fight. It's just not a compelling matchup. You know, let me say it like that. But that's proposed as being on the tank, on the Canelo and Crawford undercard, which we haven't heard anything about the undercard. I mean, we still have some time. It's only June, towards the end of June. But, you know, that fight is in September. So it's not too far. But I would like to hear some news on the undercard. And this is some good news, you know. But I just was hoping for better than I'm so glad to see Bakram, you know what I'm saying? I want to see Bakram, but I wasn't really I can't say that I'm so excited about Bakram versus Josh Kelly. But on the undercard of Canelo and Bud, I'm cool, you know. And then we got Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus Jarrell Big Baby Anderson. I think that's cool. You know, we've seen Big Baby on We saw him. He fought since losing the. He bounced back from his loss to Bacoli, but last time we saw him, he got smoked in the 5 rounds by Martin Bacoli on the Riyadh season card. Last time we saw him on a Riyadh season card. And you know, Jarrell Big Baby Miller and Jerry Big Baby Anderson have had some back and forth that's been documented. So that'd be a good fight too. You know, I'm excited. I'm pretty much excited for that fight. 2 heavyweights that are known. You know, the trash talk is going to be there, and we could kick that one as like the real Big Baby. Please stand up. So that's a decent fight. You know, it's still not huge, but it's well, it's huge because they're heavyweights. But you know, but it's not like a huge super fight, you know what I'm saying? But for the undercard is cool. But the fight that I think is dope, it will be Sam Noakes, who's ranked #1 in the WBO, versus Abdullah Mason, who's ranked #2 in the WBO for the vacant WBO title. I think that's a great fight right there. Hopefully that'd be like the co-main, but probably the heavyweights would be the co-main. But I think that's a good fight right there. Sam Noakes versus Abdullah Mason, and if that could happen on the undercard of Cinnamon and Bud, I think that's a good fight right there, man. That'd definitely beef up the card, you know what I'm saying? So that's the one that I think is the best choice. But the other two, they're all right, you know. But I'm not too mad at it. But he said, oh, even Lester Martinez versus Hamza Shiraz would be good. That's a fact. That's a fact, Oscar. He said it's not a high profile card, but it's still very competitive. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. He said that made my blood boil, man. I can't believe we let terrorists win the NBA championship. wait, what? Wait, hold on, wait. Terrorists? What you talking about, bro? He said that Tim going to get his revenge. Fedora going to sleep. You think so, Techno Dad? Ooh, I don't know, man. I got Fedora winning that one, man. I got Fedora winning that one. Don't forget to smack that like button. I don't know. I mean, that's a good fight though. But I just feel like Tim Tszyu, that's a good win against Joey Spencer, right? He beat him in what, 4 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds. But I don't know, man. You know, like I said, Sebastian Fedora, I think he might be riding a little bit of hype, but he is riding some momentum, you know. So can he beat? I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing it on the undercard of Barrios versus Pacquiao, but I'm not so certain that Tim Tszyu is going to come out on top. You know, I might be leaning towards Fedora, but we'll see, man. I'm just not sure about Tim Tszyu bouncing back, man. So we'll see. Now he said, Mr. Grandy said it'll be cool if Boots versus Ortiz was on the undercard of Canelo Crawford. Yeah, that would be a great fight. That'd be fire, but unfortunately, Virgil Ortiz is injured. Right? He's injured. His hand is injured, so he's out for the remainder of 2025. So he's out till 2026 due to a hand injury. Shout out to Oscar. He said Ortiz duck. He's out of next year. He called Ortiz a duck. Is crazy. I'm not gonna call Virgil Ortiz a duck. I'm gonna believe him with his injury. It seems rather convenient, but I'm gonna believe him with his hand injury. Give him the benefit of the doubt. But either way, whether you think he's ducking or not, he's out until 2026. So that fight is not possible. But that would have been great, man. Canelo versus Bud, and then Virgil Ortiz versus Boots. You know, you could kind of even look at it as you know, I know that Virgil Ortiz is American, but he is Mexican American. So it's like you have a Mexican versus American, and then American versus American, but it's 2 brown guys versus 2 black guys. So you could, that dynamic right there that boxing loves, you know what I'm saying, to exploit. That'd be like a double whammy, you know what I'm saying, have them on the same card. Plus, you know, Bud and Boots, they have similar styles, and not too similar, but similar enough. And then Bud and then Ortiz and Canelo have similar enough styles too, you know. So yeah, that'd have been a great fight. You know, you could kind of pitch it as like the present going into the past with Bud and Canelo versus the future with Virgil Ortiz and Jerome Boots in it. So yeah, that'd have been ideal. But like I said, yeah, Virgil Ortiz he's out, so that's not really possible, man. So but yeah, that'd have been great though, man. But yeah, so I think the undercard, the fact that they're finally talking about that, I think that's great in itself. The fact that we're talking about the undercard now. So shout out to Turki Alalshikh for that in that interview. But like I said, that interview was kind of cringy, man. Shout out to Turk, but a lot of stuff he does is cringy. I ain't gonna lie, man. But that whole sit down was cringy. But yeah, man. So but he did drop, if you can get past the cringe, excuse me, he did drop a lot of gems on there. So I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it. Moving on to another gem that he dropped is Naoya Inoue, man. Naoya Inoue. So Naoya Inoue, I just dropped a video on it late last night. Naoya Inoue, according to Turki Alalshikh, has a change of plans. As you know, we dropped a video on this a long time ago in regards to Naoya Inoue. And Naoya Inoue said, explicitly that his next 3 opponents already mapped out. If in September we'll have MJ Akhmadaliev, the showdown that he's been avoiding for about a year and a half. He's finally going to fulfill his championship duties and face his mandatory in the WBA contender MJ Akhmadaliev, or WBA interim champion right now, MJ Akhmadaliev. So that fight's in September, good Lord willing. I think September 12th or 13th. I can't remember. Whatever, is on the day before the Bud and Canelo fight. So I believe it's the 12th. So he's fighting MJ Akhmadaliev in September. And then Naoya Inoue said he wants to fight Nick Ball in December, and then Junta Nakatani in 2026. Well, according to Turki Alalshikh, those plans aren't going to go down exactly like that. He's going to be fighting Nick Ball in December, assuming he beats MJ Akhmadaliev in September. And he's not going to be fighting Nick Ball. He's going to be fighting David Allen Picasso Romero. And if you remember, David Allen Picasso Romero was the guy he was supposed to fight. He's a WBC #1 guy at 122. He was supposed to fight him, but the negotiations fell through, and Naoya Inoue ended up fighting Ramon Cardenas. So they're going to revisit this David Allen Picasso Romero fight, according to Turki Alalshikh, in December. I don't have a problem with it, because I said this when Naoya Inoue announced his so-called schedule, right? I said that this is a tentative schedule. Things change in boxing all the time. It moves with fluidity, right? So just because something might be this way one day doesn't mean it's going to actually come into fruition or play out that way. So for example, he had no plans of fighting MJ Akhmadaliev. That was kind of about time. He's finally abiding by the rules, and now he's fighting MJ Akhmadaliev. So I think that just because Turkey said it still doesn't mean it's definitive. You still got to holler at Ohashi Promotions and Top Rank and all that stuff. They got to deliberate. But I do think that since Turki Alalshikh said this, I do think that Nick Ball is probably off the table for December, and I love it. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Nick Ball, but I don't rock with Nick Ball. I think Nick Ball has been cherry picking right in front of our faces, and I'm the only one that's talking about it. Nick Ball fought TJ Doheny. After TJ Doheny lost to Naoya Inoue at 122, he brought him up and had a title defense against TJ Doheny, who's 38 years old with 5 losses. I don't know how the WBA and President Gilberto Mendoza approved that, but they did. And then now he's turning around and fighting another guy at 122, bringing him up in Sam Goodman, and he's fighting him on the undercard of Moses Atama versus Dillian White. How is Nick Ball getting away with this? I have no clue. But he's fighting 2 guys that he's bringing up, and he's cherry picking just to say that he has some type of commonality with Naoya Inoue, so I love the fact that his plans, if it's true that that Naoya Inoue fights David Allen Picasso Romero, I love the fact that Nick Ball is not getting the Naoya Inoue fight, because Nick Ball should be trying to fight Angelo Leo, who's the IBF champion in his division at 126. Or what about Rafael Espinosa El Divino, who's a WBO champion at 126, or even Stephen Coolboy Fulton or Scooter Fulton, who's a champion at 126 for the WBC. Even though I know that Fulton is it's anticipated that he's going to fight the WBC champion at 130, Oshiki Foster, but I haven't seen any type of ambition for Nick Ball to fight anybody in his division. In fact, he's only want to fight guys outside of his division, including Naoya Inoue. You know what I'm saying? I'm not mad at it. Get your money. That's a good fight. But at the same time, Naoya Inoue is not in your division, bro. So if you're a unified champion, don't you think that'll make you more attractive to Naoya Inoue? So he could go and fight you and then potentially become a unified champion in one shot? But no, you want to take the easy route and fight a whole bunch of smaller guys, and then so you can go to the Naoya Inoue fight. I think it's corny, you know what I'm saying? So I love the fact that, I'm not really looking forward to Picasso. I don't think David Allen Picasso is really a big a threat to Naoya Inoue. I think Naoya Inoue mows through David Allen Picasso because he hasn't really fought anybody, you know what I'm saying? But me being petty, if you want to say I'm being petty, because I'm cool with Naoya Inoue not going to. I don't think Naoya Inoue ever has to go to featherweight. He could stay at 122. So if he fights David Allen Picasso Romero, undefeated number 1 ranked guy, I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I'm not really too hyped on Nick Ball versus Naoya Inoue anyway. But especially because he keeps fighting guys at 122 and bringing them up, trying to get the Naoya Inoue fight. I'm glad that he doesn't get that fight, because it seems like he doesn't think anybody else is in boxing besides Naoya Inoue, and I don't think he really deserves that. And he's a dirty fighter, like Mr. Grandy said. He said, Albuga said, Doc, you seen Boots officially vacated the belts? Yeah. I made a video about it. Yes, sir, Albuga. Yes, sir. Yep, officially vacated the belts. He's at 154, man. 154 just got a little hotter, Albuga. Ooh-wee. Yep, sir. Yes, sir. Just do what's good, my boy. My boy. Shout out to my guy Just Do in the building. What's good, brethren? He said, "Ball is a pretender." Yeah, take them dad. Ball is a pretender, bro. I'm not rocking with it at all, man. I'm not rocking with it at all, man. Nick Ball's a dirty fighter. I don't really rate him as elite. Me either. I don't even think he's close to elite. I mean, he kicked TJ Doheny in the nuts. He manhandled Ronnie Rios, and I do think. Don't get me wrong. I think Nick Ball and Naoya Inoue is a better fight. I'm much more interested in that fight. But this notion that Nick Ball somehow just by default gets Naoya Inoue, I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? Why aren't we asking for unification at 126? Like, I love unifications, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to Juto Nakatani. He just had a unification with Ryosuke Nishida, the IBF champion, at 118. But they had 4 champions, you know what I'm saying? They had Seiya Susumi for the WBA. Seiya Susumi just injured his eye, so now it's Antonio Vargas who was elevated. You have WBO Yoshiki Takei. You had Ryosuke Nishida for the IBF, and they had Juto Nakatani for the WBC. All of them are undefeated, and they're all countrymen. All for Japan. So yes, we need some unifications. What's the holdup? So shout out to Juto Nakatani and Ryosuke Nishida for having that unification. But we talk about 135. At least they're not all American. They weren't all American. Now it's starting to become that way. But yeah, Lomachenko was Ukrainian and stuff like that. And I love unifications. Let's call for the unifications, but let's have unifications for all divisions. You know what I'm saying? And same with 126. 126 is like, bro, Nick Ball's not even trying. At least Stephen Fulton has mentioned unifications, but he said nobody really wants to have unifications. You know what I'm saying? El Divino, he said that he wants unifications. He said nobody really wants to have unifications, and I believe him, because you see what Nick Ball's doing. He's fighting guys that are from 122, bringing them up, trying to get a Naoya Inoue fight. You know what I'm saying? Angelo Leo, I can't really speak on him. He also called out Naoya Inoue, which is cool. I wish he would want unifications as well, but I'm not going to say that he doesn't want unifications, but he doesn't really. Like I said, Naoya Inoue is a guy that everybody wants to call out from 126 below. I get it. But at the same time, I think you should also want unifications, you know what I'm saying? But I give Angelo Leo a pass because he just fought Tomoki Kameda, which was his mandatory. I didn't really, I like the fact that he called out Naoya Inoue. That's cool, but I wish he would have called out the other champions. But I get it too, because he already fought Stephen Fulton, and he lost to Stephen Fulton at 122. You know what I'm saying? It was another division, but he still lost to him. So I get it, I get it to some extent. But Nick Ball, I would just love to have heard Nick Ball's response to when Turki Alalshikh announced that he's gonna fight David Allen Picasso Romero in December and not Nick Ball. I love that. I'm not gonna lie to you, I love that. He said Inoue will dominate 126. His toughest test, in my opinion, would be Rafael Espinosa. He has height, yep. Reach and punch volume, very dangerous fighter. Yep, I agree. No, I disagree. I don't think he dominates 126. I don't think I think that Naoya Inoue, I think he can do good, but I don't think he dominates. Now you can't dominate a guy. You can't dominate a division if I don't think you could beat a couple guys there. I don't think he beats Rafael Espinosa for sure. So there's no way he could dominate it, in my opinion. If I don't even think he could beat one of the guys that are champions. So I think El Divino Espinosa, I think Rafael Espinosa, he dominates 126 if he could get the unifications. But the reason why I don't think that and there's no disrespect to Naoya Inoue is a beast, right? It's actually a compliment to him. But I don't think Naoya Inoue beats Espinosa. I think him and Angelo Leo is a good fight. I think I would lean towards Naoya Inoue over Angelo Leo, but I think that's a good fight. I think as much as I don't care for Nick Ball, I think Nick Ball and Naoya Inoue is a good fight, especially depending on the ref, right? If the ref allows Nick Ball to be rough and do the roughhouse tactics, that's going to be a tough fight, because Nick Ball is a short guy. He's a smaller guy with a low center of mass, and he's a stocky guy, so he can make it interesting. Don't get it twisted. I have Naoya Inoue beating Nick Ball as well, but if the referee allows the dirty tactics, then that could be an interesting fight. But even forget the champions, right? I think Naoya Inoue beats Shushu Carrington, but I don't think that Naoya Inoue. I think Naoya Inoue and what's my boy name? Robeisy Ramirez. I think that's a good fight. People forget about Robeisy Ramirez because he lost to Espinosa, but I think Robeisy Ramirez and Inoue is a good fight. So I don't think he dominates, but I think he can. I think he could become I think the only person that I have of the champions that definitively beats him in my eyes is Espinosa. So I kind of agree, but I kind of disagree. He said things will change when any of these champions give my man Shushu a shot. Watch. Ooh, Patrick, you think you believe in Shushu? I don't know, man. I want to rock with Shushu, but man, I just don't really trust him, man. Like he just. And maybe I'm just stuck on the fight with maybe I'm fixated on the fight with Suleiman Sagawa, but he didn't really look too good in that fight, And he did bounce back against Dana Coolwell and some others, but to me, I still need I'm not convinced. I'm not gonna say he's not good, but I'm not convinced, and I'm also not convinced that the champions aren't giving him a title shot either. He's on top rank with Espinosa. I think they're trying to push Espinosa up to make Shushu Carrington a star, but I'm not sure if they're allowing that fight to happen. I'm not saying it's Shushu's fault, but I don't think it's Espinosa's fault. You know, I think that they're trying to push. I think Top Rank's trying to push Espinosa to 130, and I think that Espinosa could still make 126. You know, shout out to 2 cents in the building. What's good? Hey, boss lady, hit me with a membership. Shout out to 2 cents. Let's go, man. New Boxing Talk family member. Let's get it. Welcome to the gang and the membership level. Shout out to 2 cents. I appreciate that. One time for the ladies. Let's get it right, man. Let's get right, man. Y'all go check out 2 cents, man. Dope channel. I love her channel, man. And you better come correct in there because she'll get you together. And if she don't get you together, I'm going to get you together on her behalf because that's my dog right there. I rock with 2 cents heavy, man. I love her channel and I love her content. So go check her out, man. I love her perspectives. She going to let you speak now. But when you if you speak some if you look a little shaky, you better have a strong foundation to stand on because if you say something a little shaky, she gonna check you on it. And I love that, man. So shout out to 2 cents. Go check out her channel if you haven't done so already. But yeah, appreciate that membership. Shout out to 2 cents right there, man. Got the big red glove. Shushu age and his mistakes he makes is the issue in my opinion. He like 28. Yeah, he like 27, 28. Yep. He's not a spring chicken, you know. But he started late. I still think he could develop, but I just don't. That's the thing, 2 cents. I think Shushu can develop. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. You know, I despite contrary to what most people think and popular belief, I do think you can learn. You know, even though he's a little older, I don't think he's too old to learn new things. But I just don't see any development. I don't see much development. You know, even when he looks good, he just looks good. But I can't be like, okay, he looks good because he's slicker, or he looks good because he's throwing better combinations. It's like either his style's gonna work against you or it's not. You know, with Suleiman Sagawa, either he's going to look good or not. Like he didn't look good against Suleiman Sagawa, but he looked good against Dana Kuel or Bernardo Torres, you know? Like, I just think that I think he's very similar to, I know it's going to sound crazy, but like a Teofimo Lopez. Like, Teofimo Lopez, I don't really see him. I don't see any adaptation with Teofimo Lopez. Either his style's going to look good against you or it's not. That's how I feel like, you know, but I could be wrong. Shout out to MAW. What's good, MAW? Shout out to you, man. Boxing fans, Doc and chat. Unifications of disputes is always my first preference. Yes, sir. Absolutely, MAW. I'm with you 1,000%. But why 126 all waiting on Naoya Inoue to do all the work there? Exactly. I agree. I think that 126, they're all waiting on. Well, I'm not going to say all because I don't think Stephen Coolboy Fulton is waiting on him. But I think that Angelo Leo and especially Nick Ball is waiting. Espinosa, and I could be wrong, but when I see like little interviews of Espinosa, like post-fight interviews and stuff like that, and other interviews, he always says that he wants unifications. And if you know, and you know, like I said, I watch a lot of interviews, and for some reason they're trying to. It seems like they're trying to force Espinosa to 130. Like they're keeping him away from unifications at 126. So I'm not giving Espinosa any excuse or any passes, but I do have to say what I see, and that's what I see. He said Shushu beats Ball and Leo for sure. You think so? Hey, I would love for Nick. That's the fight I want right there. If I could have any fight at 126, Patrick, it would be Shushu versus Nick Ball. That's what I would like to see. Or Nick Ball versus Angelo Leo. One of those two fights for sure. Inoue beats him, but Espinosa's hard one too, I admit. Yeah, I think Espinosa, I don't know, man. I like Inoue. I think Inoue beats like I said, I think Nick Ball could be rough for Inoue, but I think Inoue could beats Nick Ball. I think Inoue could beat Angelo Leo. I don't think it's a given, but I would lean towards Inoue against Angelo Leo, especially when you consider that Stephen Fulton beat Angelo Leo. Granted, it was at 122, but Stephen Fulton beat Angelo Leo, and we saw what Inoue did to Stephen Fulton. So if you just think about that, I know triangle theories don't always work in boxing, but they work a lot more times than we like to admit. So if you just consider that, then you have to favor Inoue, in my opinion, over Angelo Leo. But it's still not a given because that was at 122 and this will be at 126. So it's still yet to be seen how Inoue's power translates to 126. It's not a given. You know what I'm saying? It's not automatic that he's going to go up there and his punches are going to be as devastating or effective as at 126 as it was at 122 and 118 and all the other divisions that he's been through. So, you know, there's still some things yet to be seen. That's why I can't just, out of respect for the sport, I gotta consider that as well. And I can't just say, oh yeah, he'll dominate 126. I'm not sure about that. And Tio needs a new trainer. When he fought Loma, he had a different trainer. Yep, that's the best I've seen him look. Yeah. Shushu nice with his boxing, but to me, he don't got that real killer instinct. Abdullah Mason, in my opinion, is one of the few young fighters who really got that killeristic. Yes. Consider becoming a member like 2 Cents just did. I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Consider becoming a member really helps the channel to keep going and growing. You feel me? Shout out to 2 Cents. Shout out to all the members. Shout out to my guy Oscar. He says Shushu was in the mandatory position for 6 months, but never appealed for his mandatory status. He just waited out and moved to WBC pass. That's true. That's true. And he's talking about in regards to the WBO, right, Oscar? So yeah, I don't know that. I don't know. But it does look a little fishy. Like, to me, Shushu is wandering into Zepeda territory. And what I mean by that is that if you remember at 135, excuse me, Zepeda was the undisputed mandatory. He was #1 in WBC, #1 in WBO, #1 in the IBF, and #1 in the WBA. That means when you're #1, all you have to do is activate your status. Somebody's gonna give you a title shot. You telling me that, okay, bet. You know, let's say Shakur Stevenson ducks Zepeda. I'm just speaking hypothetically. I know that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? It's being hyperbolic, right? Bear with me. Let's say Shakur Stevenson ducked Zepeda. Okay, bet. That's a WBC belt. Did Tank duck you too? That's a WBA belt. Let's say Tank ducked you too. Okay, cool. What about the WBO belt? Keyshawn Davis ducked you too? Or Denis Berinchik before that ducked you too? Because he was #1 when Denis Berinchik was WBO title holder. Okay, let's say he ducked you. Lomachenko was the IBF title holder. Did Lomachenko duck you too? So it's just very hard to believe that it's just circumstantial that all the champions don't give you a title shot. And that's where Shushu is approaching. He's approaching that territory to where I'm starting to look at him like I looked at Zepeda before. It's like, okay, bet. You're ranked high in all these sanctioned bodies, yet you ain't get a title shot, but you're saying that you want a title shot? But you're fighting guys like Dana Coolwell. No disrespect to Dana Coolwell, but if you ask somebody in the mall who's Dana Coolwell, they're gonna respond like this.
Who the fuck is that guy?
That's the only appropriate response.
No damn well who I am. Who the fuck is
That would be the only appropriate response. You see what I'm saying? So it sounds good that I think he should get a title shot, but I don't know if it's just the title holders not giving him an opportunity, or he's not pouncing on his opportunity like Oscar just alluded to. Shout out to my guy Big Dog Willie, man. Jake Paul versus Tank. Nah, bro, you gotta say it right. Hold on, let me pull my GTD chain out. Hold on, let me pull out my GTD chain. You gotta say it right. Tank versus Jake Paul, November 22nd, MGM 2025. Pure fact. Shout out to my guy Big Dog Willie, dropping that bread, that cheese, that butter.
These biscuits.
Dropping that graffiti on the chat walls, man. I appreciate it, bro. Hey, man, shout out to Big Dog Willie, man. You asked me for the, sometimes I didn't see your message, bro. I think it's your first time being back since then. My boy was gangbanging against me. I don't know, but I went back in the stream, because I go back and watch the shows, because that's how I make my little short clips. I go back from the show and I make short clips out of it, where I can, where it's applicable. And I saw your message saying that I think this was the time when I was like, bro, if you want to mod, just let me know to anybody, because I don't think it doesn't come to my head to mod people. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to mod, just let me know. And then I saw you say that. I didn't see you say that during that show, man. My bad. So I missed that message. My bad. But I saw it on the replay, so I apologize, bro. I wasn't ignoring you intentionally. If I miss a couple messages, please don't think that I'm ignoring, it's just sometimes I don't see it. Hey, I'm human. I got stuff in my mind I'm talking about. I'm having a conversation with this person. Then this person tried to come and converse and on a whole nother topic. So, I'm saying? I'm just one person. You feel me? But yeah, shout out to my guy Big Dog Willie. He said, I think Top Rank is not trusted Shushu. Yeah, they might not be trusted. I don't know, man. I think Patrick, I'm gonna tell you what I think, Patrick. Top Rank knows how to make stars, right? I'm not sure. Yes, big GTD chain, tech them dad. Yes, sir. Where them GTD chains at? You feel me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, man. I will say this. I'm not sure if it's that they're not trusting them or they're just okay. No. Let me rephrase that. I agree with you. I don't think they trusted to beat Espinosa. I agree with that part, but I think that they're, Top Rank is good at making stars, they're not great at holding stars, but they're great at making them, like Berlanga, 16 straight first round knockouts consecutively, right? His 17th professional fight was his 17th round of boxing. That's crazy. I don't care if he was fighting tomato cans, janitors, and Uber drivers. He knocked out 16 people in a row in the first round. Not too many people could do that. I don't care what the matchmaking is. So that's impressive. However, we did see in his 17th fight, after he went on that streak, when he started picking up the higher count, when the level of competition decreased, the higher caliber opposition approached him, his KO rates didn't just stop. It didn't just die down and decrease. It completely stopped. So that was more indicative of matchmaking, but still, that's still impressive. But my point of saying that is they made Edgar Berlanga a star. They're making Abdullah Mason a star right now. They're making Xander Zayas a star right now. Emiliano Vargas, they made into a star. Teofimo Lopez, they made into a star. Vasily Lomachenko, I can keep going and going and going. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what they're doing with Shushu, and I think part of making him a star is keeping him the hell away from Espinosa. and maybe keeping him away from the other champions right now, because like you said, they may not trust him to be able to conquer the other champions right now. And I don't think that's a problem, but shout out to 2 Cents. She's right. Like, he's 28. You know what I'm saying? Abdullah Mason is 21. Xander Zayas is 22. Emiliano Vargas is like 22 or something like that. So these other guys that I mentioned are top ranked. They were younger, so Shushu is racing against the clock, but I don't think that it's, how can I say this? I don't think that it's imperative right now that he has a title shot, but I should be able to at least identify something that is galvanizing me to think that he is who I thought he was. Because remember, before, I thought Shushu was one of them ones, man. I was like, man, for me, he just last year, year before, I gave him prospect of the year. You know what I'm saying? That's guys, Keyshawn Davis was on that list. Abdullah Mason was on that list. There were some serious guys, Xander Zayas and stuff like that. I was looking at Shushu, but he just fell short. Like, it's one thing to not get title shots, but you're not even looking that spectacular, you know what I'm saying, in the shots that you're not getting. Like, yeah, he's doing what he's supposed to do. I got to salute that, but I'm just not convinced, man. And hopefully he proves me wrong, but it's like, I just don't really see too much development. And maybe 2 Cents is right. Maybe it's because he's older. Maybe he ain't gonna get no better. You know what I'm saying? Can't teach an old dog new tricks. But, I don't know. I'm not tripping. I was joking, to be honest. He said, you're not tripping. You was joking, to be honest. What you talking about? About the Tank and Jake Paul? I know you trolling. You ain't gotta tell me that. Oh no, you talking about the wrench? Oh no, you good, bro. No, you my boy, man. Yeah, let me know, man. You always come and hold me down, bro. I know you joke. I know you're not serious. I mean, I know. Well, I don't think you are. But still, no. You know what I'm saying? You my guy, man. If anybody deserves it, you do. So shout out to you, bro. I appreciate you coming through. He said, you never know unless you have to go. And RN Shushu gotta have a go at a title. Yeah, you gotta go, man. You gotta go have a check at a title, but at the same time, like, that's why I brought up Top Rank, because Top Rank it's not too often that Top Rank is going to put their rising stars in a position to fail. That's the point I was making when I brought up Xander Zayas, Antonio Vargas, Emiliano Vargas, Xander Zayas, Abdullah Mason. They're not really going to put you in a position to fail that early. And what I'm saying is, I agree with Patrick that they may not trust him, because if you give him a title shot right now, they might feel like they're putting him in a position to fail. That's the point that I was making. I don't know if I made that clear. MAW. That's the point I was making. So I do want him to get a title shot, but maybe Bob Arum, who's a great matchmaker, he probably sees something, because you got to remember, when a lot of people said I was crazy when I had Martin Bacoli picking Jared Anderson, you know who else thought that Martin Bacoli would beat Jared Anderson? Bob Arum. Bob Arum told Jared Anderson not to take that fight. So, so sometimes a lot of these guys, especially at Top Rank, when it comes to matchmaking and putting these young guys on the path to be successful, they see stuff that we may not notice. And I agree with Patrick. That's probably what they see. Shout out to my guy Oster in the building. Big member in the building. She said, I thought that too, until I found out he was 28. She said, I found out he was 28 and said,
damn.
I'm sorry.
I agree though. You know what's crazy though? I'm gonna show you another guy. And this is why I tell you, look at this 2 Cents. This is why I tell y'all, boxing is loved in England. To me, England is like the number one, the UK in general. I would say they're like the best boxing fan base. Cause look at this. I agree with you, 2 Cents, but check this out. Ezra Taylor, right? Everybody talks about him as a prospect. He's 30. A lot of people don't know this. Like I said, I know I watch a lot of boxing, so I don't expect everybody to know. And I'm not saying I know everything, but I do pay attention a lot. Ezra Taylor's 30. He's considered a prospect, right? But it's in England because they're so much more patient with their guys than we are. You know what I'm saying? They are so much more patient than we are when it comes to guys and their development. You know what I'm saying? He's 30. Let me give you another one. You know Sam Noakes? You know Sam Noakes, 2 Cents? The guy that's supposed to fight Abdullah Mason for that vacant title? Look at Sam Noakes. 27. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, bro, I'm telling you, well, he doesn't have a lot of all bouts, but he's 27 years old. Our prospects, we think of them have to be 19. You know what I'm saying? Got to come out there like Kamara Moulton. Got to be Zaquin Moses. You know what I'm saying? Got to be 15. You know what I'm saying? Still on Similac. You know, but in England, bro, and in Mexico too. That's why Mexico is a great boxing fan base as well. You could be 35 with 50 fights, and I don't know one person they go be high on you. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's why I don't really put too much pressure on Shushu, but like I said, I want to see something I can hang on. Like, show me that you're getting better. I just don't see the improvement. I don't really mind that he's 27, 28, but I got to see the improvement, you know. But Two Cents is absolutely right. For American boxing, for our I guess our perspective on prospects is that usually like 21, 20, 22 maybe. You know, Xander Zayas, American, 22. Floyd Kid Schofield, American, 22. Abdullah Mason, 21. You know what I'm saying? What's the other dude's name? You know, all the Carmel Moulton, you know what I'm saying? All the American guys, Emiliano Vargas in his low 20. So, even Devin Haney. Devin Haney's young. Devin Haney's like 26. You know what I'm saying? As much as I don't like Ryan Garcia, he's also young, 26, something like that. Brian Norman, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Brian Norman's the youngest champion in boxing right now. He's 24. You know what I'm saying? But, you know what I'm saying? You got prospects like Ezra Taylor and Sam Noakes, damn near 30. You know what I'm saying? Well, Ezra Taylor is 30 and Sam Noakes is 27. You know, but so I do think that Shushu has time. I don't think it's necessarily a rush from an age standpoint, but you're right, considering how we traditionally see prospects on the American side. You know, historically, yeah, Shushu is definitely on. Yeah, he definitely need to get a title for sure. I agree with you. Like Abdullah Mason, we see progress. Exactly, Abdullah Mason, we see progress or potential. I don't see that with Shushu. Yeah, he seems like he's stuck. I agree with Oscar 1,000%. He preaching right now. Shushu has been improving, in my opinion. For real, I disagree, Tech. He said Shushu has been improving, but in order to show how much you are improving, the competition needs to be appropriate. And Shushu seems to be stalling. Okay, I'm with that. I don't know if he's improving, man. Like, I don't know what aspect he's improving on. He said, top rank matchmakers are good at making you keep your O. Right, exactly. Top rank matchmakers are good at keeping your O. They try to get rid of Norman Jr., throwing him to Giovanni Santillan. Talk to him, but it backfired. Yep, in his hometown too. Brian Norman beat Santillan in his hometown of San Diego, took that belt. So they could be wrong with Shushu. We'll see. Yeah. He said 30-year-old prospects do not exist. Too late to the party. You going to peak at 35, 37? Nah, bro. I don't know, man. I disagree, bro. I mean, I agree. Like I said, I agree in the American ideology of boxing, but I disagree. I'm gonna show you another. Okay, he's not a prospect, so this is not a good example from being a prospect. But look at Charlie Suarez, who just fought Emmanuel Navarrete. That, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's his first title opportunity. Yeah, it has to be because he's undefeated. Charlie Suarez is like 37. Let me make sure I'm not tripping, chat. Charlie Suarez just fought his first title fight. And I'm not saying that this is how it typically should go. Yeah, he's 36 years old, bro. He just fought his first title shot against Emmanuel Navarrete. And he's Filipino. So I'm just saying, like, this is something that we do as Americans. You know what I'm saying? We do that. You know, I'm not saying that your assessment is wrong, Tech or 2 Cents. I'm saying that you were right. But I'm saying how much of that is us and our outlook and our perspective and our and what we think is appropriate to be a prospect. You know, I do agree that there should be some age, but what's that one guy that just came out of incarceration, right? He was just locked up. That's a special case, you know, but he's like 40 and he was supposed to be on this card. It was Pablo Valdez, I believe. He was supposed to be on this last card, but I guess his opponent pulled out or something. So everybody got a different path, you know what I'm saying? So I think Shushu, I think it's okay that Shushu's 28. I don't think it's okay that Shushu's 28 and he doesn't seem like he's improving. But shout out to Technum Dad. He said he thinks he's improving. Yeah, 28. 28. So I don't know. Like I said, I just don't see the improvement. You know, when he fought Bernardo Torres right here, I was like, okay, bet that dude looks fire. You know what I'm saying? When he fought Brian DeGrassi, I thought that was good too. But then that was okay. You know, no, DeGrassi was cool, but I started seeing some flaws. I was like, I started seeing some flaws. I was like, okay, bet maybe he's gonna pick it up. Maybe it's just the matchup. Then he fought Suleiman Sagawa. He got through by the skin of his teeth on that one. And then Dana Coolwell, yeah, he beat him, but that was, remember that this was on the Jake Paul Tyson undercard, you know, and he just went unanimous decision with Dana Coolwell. No disrespect, but it just. And then Enrique Vivas, he did his thing, you know, but still, like, to me, it's more indicative of guys he's gonna look good against, that he stylistically looks good again. I don't really see any adaptation. I don't see like, okay, he's doing this, he's adapting to this, he's changing to this style, or like, you know what I'm saying? I just see a guy who, like I said, like Teofimo, he's either gonna look good against your, like with Teofimo, I don't see a game plan being implemented. I damn sure don't see it executed with Teofimo. It's like, okay, he's either gonna look real good against you, or he's gonna struggle. You know what I'm saying? You don't see like when you watch a Gervonta Tank Davis, whether you like him or not, you see him thinking in there. You see even Lomachenko, you know, you see him thinking in there, and you see like them setting up traps, and you see them like even what they say about the Teofimo fight with Lomachenko. They say that if it would have went a little longer, which I think is just an excuse for Lomachenko, but you know, I will agree with that. Lomachenko started picking up towards the end of the fight, you know, towards the latter portion of the fight. And I think that's because he started figuring out some things, you know. It might have took him a little longer. Obviously, he couldn't get the victory, but you know, I don't see that type of stuff from Teofimo or even Shushu Carrington right now. I just see a guy, and like I said, I'm not being disrespectful. I think Shushu is good, but I don't know how good. You know what I'm saying? He got to show me something. Shout out to my guy Ty in the building, big member in the building. He said Shushu is in the same position as Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee just moved up to 147, right? He announced he's going to welterweight. Brandon Lee, I agree. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one right there. In order to show how much you are improving, the competition needs to be appropriate. And Shushu seems to be stalling. So wait, I messed up. My bad. Sorry, I skipped. What the hell? My chat just jumped. I mixed Ty's message with Take Them Dad's message. He said Shushu is in the same position as Brandon Lee. Yes, in my opinion, hasn't developed and still fighting development competition. Almost 30 in their ass. I agree 1,000%. Yeah, Pablo Valdez. Shout out to Patrick. You knew who I was talking about. Thank you, bro. He said Dalton Smith in the UK 28. Yeah, Dalton Smith. That's bro. Shout out to Patrick. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So Dalton Smith. Exactly. Dalton Smith. He's 28 years old, right? We don't give him the same pressure as we give Shushu, but you know, because. Yeah, Dalton Smith, 28 years old, bro. 28 years old, same age as Shushu. We still consider him a prospect. You see what I'm saying? But these are UK guys, you know what I'm saying? And they have more patience. That's why, you know, I think sometimes we got to have more patience. But I do agree, Shushu hasn't been showing me nothing as far as development, man. I haven't seen it. He said, Coolwell is underrated. He's a good boxer. He just doesn't punch hard. Yeah, from Australia, right? Yeah, he's decent, but like I said, I would have liked to see him stop him, man. And that's the thing, Patrick. I don't want to say stop him because you don't have to stop somebody to look good. But I think I agree with what Ty said. He's making fights that shouldn't be competitive seem more competitive than what they should be. You know, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Shushu is bad. You know, I like Shushu. I'm rooting for him, but I just don't see much to go off of. But somebody that's a 2-3 division champ get called a 30-year-old champ. Come on now, Tufo. Talk to him. A 30-year-old 2 or 3 division champ. We gonna say 3 divisions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Because they say Pacquiao's 8 division.
Yeah.
They say Rolly Romero's 3 division.
Yeah.
So that means Gervonta Tank Davis is 3 division.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Because, you know, no one had a problem with Rolly Romero saying that he's a 3 division champ because he just won the WBA regular title. No one has a problem with calling Pacquiao an 8 division champion, and some of those are interim and regular titles. But when you say Tank is a 3 division, then people say, oh, well, Mario Barrios wasn't. It was a regular title. Well, okay, some of the other guys that have regular titles, you call them you give them credit for being a champion in that division. So Tank is definitely a 3 division. Now, if you're one of those that say Pacquiao is a 6 division champion and you want to call Tank a 2 division champion, okay, cool. But I need consistency. You know what I'm talking about? I'm cool with that. But I agree with you. Tufo. But I do need my guy Tank. I do need to see some unifications, man. I do need to see. If not, I need to see some bigger fights, man. You know, I do. Shout out to my guy Tank, though. You know, Shushu should be in the same position as Keyshawn. They went through the same Olympic process that delayed their pro debut. Okay, hold on, my boy preacher right now. Everybody face forward in your pews. Pastor Ty Morris said is approaching the pulpit. Shushu should be in the same position as Keyshawn.
Yeah.
They went through the same Olympic process.
Yeah.
That delayed their pro debut.
Yeah.
Him still fighting developmental competition.
Yeah.
Shows that he's not good, just like Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Dalton Smith is overhyped, bro. And I like Dalton Smith so much, but Dalton Smith pissed me off when he tried to call out Adam Azim. What are we doing? You telling me that you won a silver championship? You're supposed to be going for gold, calling out world level. You knock out Jorge Zepeda, and you call out Adam Azim? Bro, go look at that fight in the post press conference. I mean, the post fight interview in the ring, right? Go look at Eddie Hearn's face. Eddie Hearn looked so disappointed. I felt bad for Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn was like, this mother. The man called out Adam Azim. Eddie Hearn said, what? Eddie Hearn tried to save him. He came out the mic. He said, no, there's levels. He said, there's levels. We're above Adam Azim. But if you want to go backwards, we could go take all Adam Azim. So Eddie Hearn tried to save him. But it's like, bro, like, Dalton Smith has no aspirations to be world level. So yeah, I don't rock with Adam. I used to like Dalton Smith, but when I saw that he's not really trying to fight, I said, okay, yeah, I can't rock with Adam Azim. I mean, Dalton Smith and Adam Azim. Adam Azim just called out George Kambosos. Adam Azim just called out George Kambosos after he lost to Richardson Hitchens.
Know your fucking place, trash.
I don't rock with Adam Azim either. I don't mind you calling him out. George Kambosos, but you know, why are you doing it now? Don't forget to smack that like button, y'all. I appreciate it. Give me a second, chat. Give me a second. I send this message. My bad. Dalton don't want real smoke. I agree. He does not want real smoke. Oscar says Shushu got a gift against Solomon Sagawa. I agree. I could have went either way. I mean, I'm not mad at Shushu winning, but it definitely could have went either way. I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of guys like Brandon Lee. I don't know what he's doing. Abel Mendoza. I don't know what he's doing. Shushu Carrington. I'm not sure what he's doing. There's quite a few guys. Dalton Smith. I'm not sure what he's doing. Adam Azim. I'm not sure what he's doing. He has a little bit more time. You know, he's younger, has less fights, but I'm not sure what quite a few guys are doing. You know, they over there pussyfooting. If you ask me, that's what I think they're doing. That's what I think they're doing. But yeah, man. So, you know, shout out to Turk. You know, that interview was pretty good. He had some announcements. Don't forget to smack that like button for your boy. But like I said, Inoue versus David Allen Picasso Romero in December. What do y'all think about that? I mean, excuse me, if anybody wants to call in on the show, man, you know, you can always call in. It's pinned to the Discord. You know, I mean, it's pinned to the chat. Anybody wants to call in, get their thoughts off, please do so. If not, it's all good. But yeah, I think the Inoue versus Picasso fight is cool. I do wish that if they indeed have Picasso versus Inoue, I hope that's not a main event, but I think it would be a main event because that's what Turki Alalshikh said, right? He said that he wants it to be a big card with Inoue and Picasso Romero as a main event, and he wants to have multiple Japanese fighters versus Mexican fighters specifically. And I don't mind that, but it's just I don't think that's a main event fight, man. You know, but of course it's the monster, you know what I'm saying? Inoue, he deserves main event. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying what I'm saying is that I don't think Picasso is ready for that. You know, I don't think he'll ever be ready for that. You know, Inoue sleeps like, yeah, I agree, Tech. I shoot you. Yeah, I agree. I think he puts it to sleep. I'd say 5. You know, but yep. But yeah, I just think that these fights, I don't mind it, but he got to put them together. But like I said, the biggest news was the fact that Gervonta Davis could be joining the Riyadh season. That'd be dope. Like I said, I've always thought that was a possibility. Of course, you know, especially with Al Heyman and PBC working with Riyadh already, you know, and Turki Alalshikh, and you know, I just like the fact that Turk was like, you know, he respects Gervonta Davis's loyalty to Al Heyman, you know, and I think that's a very important. You know, you should always be loyal to people that you should be loyal to. Don't be loyal to the people you shouldn't be loyal to now, because everybody don't deserve loyalty, but you should be loyal to the people that you should be loyal to. And I like the fact that Turkey not only acknowledged that, but he also supported that. Takes loyalty. So shout out to Gervonta Davis. I would love to see him on Riyadh season card, but if he's on Riyadh, like I said, do not just assume that's automatically good. That automatically means that it's going to be Tank versus Shakur. It does not automatically mean that. You know what I'm saying? Because we've seen some guys, you know, like I said, he's talking about Cinnamon fighting Hamza Shiraz and Chris Eubank Jr. after he fights Terrence Crawford, assuming he wins, you know. But you know what's crazy? I even if Terrence Crawford beats Canelo, you know, there's no rematch clause. So even if Bud beats Canelo, I still think Canelo would fight either Hamza Shiraz or Chris Eubank Jr. Because that's, you know, he has deals with, that's a deal that he has with Turk. So I don't like those fights. But I'll tell you this. If Terrence Bud Crawford beats Cinnamon, I like those fights a little more. Because those would be tune-ups for Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Get him a tune-up. That's all those fights are. All those fights are is tune-ups. Those fights are only tune-ups, man. Hamza Shiraz versus Canelo was just a tune-up. That's all that is a tune-up, man. Hey, shout out to also too, man. Shout out to Caleb Plant and his wife Jordan Plant. They just had apparently their child was just born. So salute to them, man. Salute to the Plant family. That's dope. One time for the Plant family. Caleb Plant and Jordan Plant. They just had their baby. And so yeah, but like I was saying before, there's no rematch clause according to Terrence Bud Crawford. He said in a little interview that there's no rematch clause. So even if Terrence Bud Crawford wins or he loses, you know, Canelo would move on. And if he moves on, if Canelo loses, then I'll be like, okay, bet Chris Eubank Jr. versus Canelo, I understand it, or Cinnamon versus Hamza Shiraz. But those are nothing but tune-up fights. You know, I do not like it. Like I said, I think Hamza Shiraz, assuming he beats Berlanga, which I think Berlanga beats Shiraz. But if Shiraz beats Berlanga, I would still rather see Shiraz versus Christian and Billy, versus Ozzy Iglesias versus Diego Pacheco, or hell, even versus Chris Eubank Jr. But I do not want to see Cinnamon versus Eubank Jr. or gosh dang Hamza Shiraz. What are we talking about? What are we doing? What are we doing? But yeah, man, appreciate y'all rocking, man. Oh, or Lester Martinez. Shout out to Lester Martinez as well. I think Oscar mentioned that. He said, don't be loyal to... That's crazy. Yeah, we gonna pause that. We gonna pause that. Loyal to Diddy is crazy.
No Diddy.
Yeah, we gonna pause that. This man said loyal to Diddy.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that, bro. I don't know what you mean by that. That's crazy. He said, I don't like the Inoue versus Picasso. I would rather see Leo for Junto. Yeah, me too, man. I don't see how Nick Ball lost a fight, though. I do see how Nick Ball lost a fight, though. Yeah. I have no sympathy for Nick Ball. Yeah. Go try to get a real fight, man. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that. I'm not saying that Sam Goodman is not a real competitor. I'm not saying that. And I know that's what it sounds like. What I'm saying is that I'm tired of Nick Ball getting back-to-back fights against guys that are in smaller divisions. That's the point that I'm making. It's not the fact that Sam Goodman is not a good fighter or TJ Doheny is not a good fighter. Well, we know TJ Doheny is not a good fighter in this current iteration of his career. But my point is that he's bringing up back-to-back guys. One guy coming off of a stoppage loss in the lower weight division, and now another guy who's from a lower division. So let him fight somebody. At least fight a featherweight. You know what I'm saying? At least fight a featherweight. Shoot, fight a real featherweight, man. You know, it don't have to be Espinosa, doesn't have to be Angelo Leo, doesn't have to be Fulton, but at least fight Shushu Carrington or something. Fight a real 120, fight Robisi Ramirez, something. You over here trying to fight 122s, man. Go down to 122 then. I still would love Crawford versus Boots. Just the styles and skills mixture would be crazy. But yeah, I'm wishing on the star. Yeah, I don't think that fight's ever gonna happen. But yeah, that would be a good fight too. Yeah, you know me, Patrick. I already said this. I said this many times. I'll say it again. This is not the ideal fight for me. Cinnamon versus Bud is not the ideal fight for me. I would have loved for Bud to go for 3 times undisputed at 154 as opposed to going for it at 168, which I don't mind it. You know, it's still a good fight because he's a phenomenal fighter. So is Canelo. So I don't mind it. I love it. We're witnessing 2 all-time greats, you know, go against each other. So I don't mind it. But I would have rather see Canelo fight what's his name? David Benavidez, you know what I'm saying? Not now because he's at 175, but before, I'd rather see Cinnamon fight David Benavidez, or hell, even fight Jamal Charlo. I prefer the Jamal Charlo fight. You know, and then let Terrence Crawford go fight Bakram Murtazali for cleaning out the 154-pound division. But the only difference between me and most that may say that is that I don't think that this is a bad fight, though. You know, I think Terrence Crawford does have a chance to beat Cinnamon, even though I don't think he will. I got Cinnamon beating Bud by late stoppage. But I think that it's a good fight, but I would rather them go down different paths, you know. But we're here now, so I'm not mad at it. You feel me? It's a great fight. It's a great fight, but I would rather others, you know. But yeah, man, I'm about to go ahead and call it. About to go get me some food. I'm a little hungry, but I will be back on later for the late show, assuming we have stuff to talk about, which I think we will. I want to also make this announcement as well. So when I don't, like yesterday, I didn't come on for the late show. Don't think that I don't want to go on. It's just that I don't like talking about the same stuff over and over again. Like, for example, I made a video last night from the interview with Turki Alalshikh. In that same interview, and I'm not throwing shots at anybody, I'm just speaking from my perspective. In that same interview, they had news about Gervonta Davis. You know, Gervonta Davis is one of my favorite fighters. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't make a video about Gervonta Davis. I made a video about Naoya Inoue. You know why? Because I didn't feel like talking about Gervonta Davis. I don't like talking about the same thing over and over again. And that's part on me. I got to be more creative. And a lot of times I do. That's why we do ranking shows when we do the rankings of fighters in different divisions. That's why we do the square ups and stuff like that. I try to be creative. But what I don't like, and I need to get over this, you know, because that's what ESPN does. ESPN's still talking about the finals, and they'll talk about Tyrese Halliburton's injury for 5 weeks straight, you know, and people still want to hear it. Like me, I still want to hear it. But for me, talking about it, I don't like talking about the same thing over and over and over again. So I don't want to talk about Terrence Bud Crawford versus Canelo all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind talking about it sometimes when we start just rapping at the end of the show and we're talking about different things and matchups and stuff. I'm intrigued by it, but I don't like that to be one of my topics every single day. You know what I'm saying? That's why I made a video about Naoya Inoue fighting Picasso instead of making a video about Gervonta potentially being a Riyadh season card, because I feel like I've talked about that before. It's just now Turkey's talking about it now, so it makes it gives a new little shift on it. But I've talked about this before. You see what I'm saying? It's just now it's a little bit more truth to it because Turkey has acknowledged it and Gervonta has acknowledged it. But I talked about this plenty of times before. You know what I'm saying? So when I don't come on for a late show, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that I didn't come up with anything creative, or the topics to me aren't that intriguing. So we're going to do a late show on as needed basis from now on. I like the morning shows because, you know, they say early bird catches the worm, and I always like to be up early. So we're going to do morning shows most likely, you know, but the late shows will be on an as needed basis from here on out. But I'm usually going to do it though. So yeah. He said, Big Dog Willie said, Dr. Boston Talk, that's how your channels avoids a echo chamber. Change up the subject. Right. I appreciate it. Exactly. And that's what I want. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take us a little longer to gain momentum and grow, because let's face it, you know, on YouTube, people talk about wanting to hear other news about other boxers. That's not true. They want to hear news about Gervonta, Canelo, and Gervonta and Canelo. You see what I'm saying? That's who they want to hear about. That's why they are the biggest stars. You know what I'm saying? I'm not knocking that. But for me personally, I get bored, you know? So, and I don't want as much as I like Tank, I don't want to be considered a Tank channel. I don't want to be considered a Canelo channel. As much as I like them, I don't want to be considered a boxer. I want to be considered a boxing channel. So you come here that's why I always talk about minimal weight with Oscar Collazo at 105. And I talk about heavyweight with Daniel Dubois at, you know what I'm saying, at the largest. I talk about cruiserweight. So, I just like all boxing. I don't care if it's in America or England or Jamaica or Nigeria or Japan. I just talk about boxing because that's what I like. You know what I'm saying? So I'm watching the WBC Grand Prix. I'm watching, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Y'all see it. We in Japan. We in Japan on a Tuesday, turning up, watching fights in Japan. You know what I'm saying? Then we in England on a Sunday, and then we back in Vegas on Saturday. And on Friday, we in Riyadh. You know what I'm saying? So when we commentate. One day I'll be there in the physical, you feel me? Get my passport stamped up. But I'm talking about right now, we going to commentate everywhere. Yes, sir. That's why I try to be. Shout out to Pugilism. What's good? He said, I feel you about repeating the same subject. It's going to be Crawford and Canelo every second. I'm already tired of that fight. Yeah, exactly. I'm tired of that. Not that I'm tired of it because, I'm tired of talking about it. Now, if there's something that's intrigued, that's why I loved when Bud pushed Canelo, because I'm like, okay, bet. Now it's something to talk about. Now that's an interesting little wrinkle. It's still Bud versus Cinnamon, but it's another little added wrinkle, you know what I'm saying? That's to it. But as far as just arguing about who's gonna win, man, they about to fight, man. We about to see who gonna win. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about Benavidez and cruiserweight. Benavidez better sit his behind down. If no news, if there's no news, I want to do a square up. Need to climb in the rankings and come see, man. They don't want that pressure. I need to update the rankings too. That's on me. I meant to do that, Ty. I need to update the rankings because I don't think I added your win versus irony yet. Shame on me. I usually do that the day of, and I think I remember I started doing it and something happened or something came up. But yeah, I got you. I'm gonna update those rankings too. Yeah, they don't want to square up. We got to do a square up too, because I don't think Patrick's ever seen a square up. You know what I'm saying? He knew Benavidez and cruiserweight is too much for him, in my opinion. Shout out to Benavidez. I made a video about it, Patrick. Go check it out. But yeah, we could talk about that real quick before I get off and go get some food. Yeah, shout out to David Benavidez. David Benavidez talking about going to cruiserweight. He called out Ja Pataya. I made a video about it a couple days ago, last week or something like that. I'm not mad at it though. But I do think David Benavidez, and I like David Benavidez, but it's becoming exhausting. Like Benavidez wants to fight Canelo. Benavidez wants to fight Bivol. He wants to fight Beterbiev. He wants to fight Ja Pataya. To me, I like it, but you got to fight somebody. You know what I'm saying? And you're calling out these people that are intriguing, but are they really realistic? I'm not saying you can't fight Canelo, but you never put forth. First of all, I'm not blaming David Benavidez solely because Canelo is the face of boxing. He's the man. Heavy is the head that wears a crown. He could fight who he wants to fight, and contrarily, he could not fight who he doesn't want to fight. So I'm not just solely blaming on David Benavidez, but they never enforced their mandatory. That's just a fact, because Canelo was never stripped for not fighting David Benavidez. That happens. Case in point, when he moved to light heavyweight and he wanted to fight Bivol, President Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC, they stripped Bivol with the utmost haste. With urgency, right? Why didn't they apply that same urgency when it came to stripping Canelo? Because Canelo's a cash cow and they didn't want to upset him. So you got to blame the sanctioning bodies more than we blame the fighters. But anyway, you saw how fast they stripped Bivol of the WBC when he was the #1 mandatory. Why didn't they apply that same pressure on Canelo? Because they know what's going on. My boy Cinnamon's the face of boxing. That's why they ain't do it. You know what I'm talking about? Shout out to my guy Cinnamon. You feel me? They know what's up. They know what's up. Shout out to my guy Cinnamon, but he said I meant next time. Okay, bet, yeah, we can talk about it in the next show. I appreciate it, bro. But now I'm rolling now. So now it's a domino effect, man. Now you gonna get this avalanche. Yeah, you gonna get this avalanche. We rolling now. So but yeah, we get to, I appreciate that, Patrick. But yeah, so David Benavidez, like I said, I definitely think he wants to smoke. I'm not doubting his ambition. I'm not doubting that he will do it. But you got to stop telling me. You got to show me now. You know what I'm talking about? You got little more grip, little less lip. You know what I'm talking about? Pause. I don't know if some of y'all know that saying. It's not a sexual saying, but it does sound sexual now that I say it. Little more grip, little less lip. You know what I'm talking about?
No, did he?
So yeah, I think that you're calling out these guys, and I would love to see it, but to me it just shows like, bro, you're talking about fighting at 168. You're fighting at 175, and now you talk about potentially going to cruiserweight, and you go back to what Cinnamon said. And I'm not just saying this because I like Cinnamon. I'm just being honest. Canelo said that Benavidez doesn't bring anything besides 25 more pounds on fight night. So you're telling me that you're calling out guys at 168, you're fighting at 175, and you're saying you could go to cruiserweight and fight the Ring Magazine, the IBF champion, the Ja Pataya? It's a testament to what Canelo was saying. David Benavidez is a big guy. And I don't want to say that he's a weight bully, because those terms are used in a negative connotation, but he does use weight to his advantage. You know what I'm saying? And I know Ty's going to get mad at me, but a lot of fighters do that, including Devin Haney. The difference between Devin Haney and David Benavidez, they're consummate professionals. Well, David Benavidez, he missed weight a couple times, but Devin Haney never misses weight. So I don't say that they're a weight bully like they're cheating. People try to say people are weight bullies like what Devin Haney does is the same thing that Keyshawn Davis tried to do. No, that is a weight bully in a negative way. Devin Haney, he operates in the confines of the sport. If you don't want to put a rehydration clause, that's your business. Devin Haney's not doing anything wrong. He comes in on weight, he makes weight, and then he blows up. That's something in his body that his body type can handle. That's one of his characteristics he should take to his advantage. If you don't want them to use that advantage, I don't knock you for it, put a rehydration clause. But see, I'm not one of those simple fans that say that, oh, you're a punk if you use a rehydration clause. They say, oh, if you use a rehydration clause and you don't fight anybody regardless of the weight, this is what they say about you.
Nigga, you's a bitch.
But then if you come in and you make weight and then you blow up during the night of the fight, then they also say this about you.
Nigga, you's a bitch.
So it's like you damned if you do and damned if you don't. That's why boxing fans are trash, bro. Because they talk trash about the people that implement a weight rehydration clause, but they also talk trash about guys that come in as weight bullies. So what do you want them to do? Which one? You see what I'm saying? So but David Benavidez, he definitely comes in heavy. And you know, as Boo Boo Andre, you know, as his opponents at 168, you know, he comes in heavy, you know, yeah, I just think that's the truth. Now, I don't think it's cheating. I don't knock it because these are stuff that you could control in your contract. That's what negotiations are for. But it is the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys come in big. But like I said, I do not compare what Devin Haney did to what Ryan Garcia did. Ryan Garcia didn't make weight. That's weight bullying. Where it's cheating. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfair. Keyshawn Davis tried to come in 4 pounds heavier against Gustavo Lemos. That's weight bullying, and that's cheating. That's unfair. Gustavo Lemos came in 6 pounds against Keyshawn Davis. That's weight bullying. That's cheating. That's unfair. But if you make weight and there's nothing in the contract that stops you from blowing up afterwards, hey, that's fair game. That's all in the confines of the sport. So we need to chill out. We need to make that distinction. You know what I'm saying? So when I say weight bully, I'm saying it in a different context than what others say it. You know what I'm saying? Others say it like, oh, you shouldn't do it. I mean, well, if you shouldn't do it, then it should be in the contract. It is what it is. He said, nah, David Benavidez is a weight bully, but he's missed weight a lot and fought numerous small. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I agree. Yeah, he hasn't missed weight lately, but he has missed weight in the past. Yeah, so I agree. He's more of a weight bully with it. I got to come up. Hey, help me. Y'all got to help me come up with another term, because I do think that we should separate the two. A weight bully when you miss weight is different than a weight bully when you make weight. I don't even like calling it a weight bully, you know what I'm saying? But it is somebody who blows up. So I'm gonna say, yeah, that's what we're gonna say. We're gonna say he blows up. Yeah, we just gonna say he blows up. They all say the same about Benavidez, but he keeps proving people wrong. He keeps shutting people's mouth. Yep, he fought people that called him out too. Yep, remember, I love that. That's why I rock with David Benavidez. And I like Dave Morrell too. But that's why I like David Morrell for chasing Benavidez, and I like Benavidez for actually fighting him. You know what I'm saying? That's what, bro, I rock with David Benavidez heavy. He's just, you know, Benavidez ain't run from any smoke. Facts. I definitely believe that he will fight Jai Pataya. Oscar says, I want to see Benavidez, but it's starting to turn out to be a T.O. It sounds good that you're calling out everybody, but you can't be a duck when you're not in the near or future plans. Yeah, I don't think anybody's duck. So let me be, if somebody says Canelo duck Benavidez, cool. I'm cool with that. But I don't believe Bivol or Beterbiev is ducking Benavidez. And I definitely don't think anybody from Cruiserweight is ducking Benavidez. I heard people say that, oh, Zerno's ducking Benavidez. I heard people say Jai Pataya needs to fight Benavidez because he called him out. That's not how it works, man. There's an order to things. I know boxing is a wild, wild west. It's very chaotic. You know what I'm saying? Has a lot of entropy going on, disorder. That's an engineering term, entropy. A lot of disorder and stuff and chaos, but there is a little bit of order to it. You know, you just can't call out somebody and think that they're gonna fight you just because you called them out. You know, so shout out to Pugil. He said Benavidez brings Mexicans who hate Canelo. That's it. That's crazy. I rock with Canelo. I rock with Benavidez too. But you know, he said they were pulled out of his division while also being super heavy. Yeah, I agree with you, Ty. I think Benavidez is more of a weight bully than Devin Haney. Like I said, Devin Haney's a consummate professional. I don't think Devin Haney has ever missed weight. Has he? I could be mistaken, but I don't think Devin Haney ever missed weight. You know, he said he bullies by being the Devin Haney at 168, operating like Devin Haney at 135, and stretches the weight like Jaime Munguia, fall and collapse, draw on the scale. Yeah. He said he didn't always make weight, and he was pulling up smaller dudes for fights. He wasn't young folks credit him. Yep. Young folks credit him only his last 4, but overlook the other things he's done. I agree. Being on that booger sugar too. He was on that cocaine now. He was on that white girl with Oscar de la Panti. Oscar de la Fishnets. So yeah, man. But yeah, I think we need to come up with a new term, because there indeed needs to be a distinction between those that rehydrate after making weight and those that intentionally miss weight and rehydrate, you know. So yeah, so definitely. But yeah, man, appreciate y'all rocking as always, man. Y'all be easy. Take care of yourselves. You know what I'm saying? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that subscribe button. I don't know why you haven't, you know what I'm saying? And hit that like button for real. Hit that like button for your boy. Keep us going and growing. Shout out to those dropping the graffiti on the chat walls. Big Dog Willie with the $2. And shout out to 2 cents, man. One time for the ladies. You know what I'm saying? She came through as a Boxing Talk family member, man, at the Boxing Talk graduate level. So we appreciate that. 2 cents. Shout out to sis right there, man. Boss lady. You know what I'm talking about? Shout out to all the members. I appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate y'all for real. Don't forget to smack that like button. But most importantly, remember, with God, we can do anything. Without God, we're nothing. The doctor's out. Peace. Go check out the videos, man, and I appreciate y'all for real. You know what I'm saying? Go like this video too.
From the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold we're about to freeze. But we're Florida boys, hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.